All right, so we're going to go over sex-linked genetics. So sex-linked genetics, sometimes they're called X-linked because they're genes that are found on the X chromosome. So we have 23 pairs of chromosome, and the 23rd pair is called our sex chromosomes because it determines our biological gender. So females have 2 X chromosomes, and males have an X and Y. So the genes that are found on these chromosomes are what we're talking about. That's what we mean when we mean sex-linked, okay? So a biological male is considered has an X and a Y chromosome, and a female has 2 X chromosomes. So what's interesting is all these genes are X-linked. So sometimes you see sex-linked or sometimes you see X-linked, which means they're all found on the X chromosome. But the Y chromosome does not contain genes. You notice, it contains genes, but it doesn't contain the same number of genes as, say, the Y chromosome. Notice how small the Y chromosome is compared to the X chromosome. So what's the probability that children will be male or female? Well, it's actually quite simple because in order to have an offspring, you need a male and a female, right? And so here's your male, and here's your female. And so the probability, if we use the Punnett square, is 50-50. You have a 50-50 opportunity that it'll be male or female. Notice Dad either gives a Y or gives an X, and that's what determines whether they're male or female. All right, so how do we do stuff like this? So color blindness, red-green color blindness, actually is a sex-linked trait. It's a recessive disease, and so there's actually a test. So if you're colorblind, you can't see the number in here, but if you can distinguish between red and green, you can see that there's the number 16, right? And so there's a test for this. So let's talk about, so we know that color blindness, so we'll make it is a recessive. So if you're colorblind, now we use the letter C, even though it's a recessive trait. Because so then we know what disease we're talking about. So capital C would be normal, and then no color blindness, and lowercase c would be colorblind. So it actually works a lot different than just big C, little c, because in males, if a male is colorblind, remember a male has X and a Y, right? So if they're colorblind, they're going to have a little c on the X. And so that is a colorblind male. Remember, there's nothing on the Y. So this is actually why males are more likely to be colorblind, because females have an extra X to kind of get that dominant allele. And so, whereas males only have one chance, and they get it from their mom because they got the Y from their dad, right? And so if a male is normal, then he would have... So males only have one allele. Why? Because they have only one X chromosome. Females... So remember, they have 2 X's, right? So if they're normal, they could be this, which is homozygous dominant. So this would be normal. If they could be normal as well. They could be normal as well, but they, in this case, they're a carrier. They're heterozygous. So this is what we call a carrier, and then this female would be colorblind. All right, so you'll notice that the females just want to, if they're heterozygous, they won't be colorblind, so they'll be normal, right? But they are, they're carrying one, so we call them a carrier. They're carrying a recessive allele. Okay. So you can kind of see how females, they're more likely to be normal than colorblind because they have the extra X chromosome. Let's do some problems. So colorblindness is a sex-linked recessive disease. Suppose a colorblind man has children with a normal woman who is a carrier. So a colorblind man is going to be this, right? And then a colorblind normal female who is a carrier is going to be that. And so let's do the Punnett square. So let's take a look. So we have and then so what you can see here is so what's the probability they will have a colorblind son? So the probability that they'll have a colorblind son is, so here are the two sons, right? So one of them is going to be colorblind. So that's going to be, they have a 25% chance that they'll have a colorblind son. What is the probability that their daughter will be colorblind? So you'll notice here it's 25% as well. And then what is the probability that their child would be colorblind? Well, here and here is going to be colorblind, so it's 50%. Okay. So let's do a second one. Suppose a normal man has children with a colorblind female. So here's the normal man is big C, Y, and colorblind female. So if we do the Punnett square, it'll be all right. So what's interesting is in sex-linked genetics, you look at your, like if you're a son, you look at your mom to figure out what you're going to get, because your mom is what gives you the X chromosome. So if mom is colorblind, any male, any son she has is going to be colorblind, right? So the probability that they'll have a colorblind son is 50%. And then what is the probability that their daughter will be colorblind is 0%, right? They're all going to be carriers, but they won't be colorblind. Because as long as dad is normal, his daughters cannot be colorblind because he's giving them a big C. The probability that the child will be colorblind is 50%. Okay.